You've spent your entire life chasing happiness. Every decision, the job, the relationship, the new year, new me, gym membership you used 4 times, all of it was pointing at the same thing. Be happy, get happy, stay happy. And somehow, despite the relentless chasing, you're sitting here watching a YouTube video about happiness at whatever time this is, which is either a bold strategy or a cry for help. Honestly, could go either way. Here's what nobody tells you. The moment you stop chasing happiness, like actually stop, something deeply weird happens. Not bad weird. Not spiritual guru selling a course weird. Just weird. For real bro here, where we say what no one else will. And what no one else will say is this. Happiness might literally be the worst thing you could possibly chase. And the second you stop, your brain starts doing something that makes absolutely zero logical sense, but somehow works better than anything you've ever tried. We're getting into that. But first, why does chasing happiness feel like the right move every single time, even though it clearly isn't working? Part 1. The trap that feels like progress. You're running a race where the finish line is also running. Here's your Monday morning. Alarm goes off. You pick up your phone immediately, not because anything happened, but because maybe something happened. There's a 0.3% chance someone sent a meme that will fix your mood. You're basically buying scratch tickets with your attention. You get to work. You're not happy, but you tell yourself, when I get the promotion, I'll be happy. So you work hard. You get the promotion. There's a nice moment, maybe 48 hours of genuine satisfaction. Then the finish line moves. When I buy the house, I'll be happy. When I lose the weight, I'll be happy. When I finally get my act together, read more books, drink less coffee, drink more water, start waking up at 5 a.m. like those guys on YouTube. You see what's happening here? Happiness, as a destination, is not a place you arrive at. It's a concept your brain invented to keep you motivated. It's a carrot on a stick. And the brutally funny part? You built the stick. You're holding the stick. You are both the donkey and the guy riding the donkey. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it the hedonic treadmill, which is a very clinical way of saying, no matter what happens to you, good or bad, your brain drags your emotional baseline back to roughly the same level it was before. Win the lottery? Back to baseline in a year. Lose your legs? Back to baseline in a year. That's not pessimism. That's a Harvard study. Your brain is just aggressively committed to mediocrity. So if chasing happiness is a treadmill, what happens when you just step off? Hold that thought. Because before we get there, you need to understand something about why you started running in the first place. Part 2. The reason you started chasing, and it's not what you think. The uncomfortable moment you realize you were lied to in a very nice way. Nobody told you to chase unhappiness. That's not the twist. Nobody sat you down and said, hey kid, spend your life miserable. But at some point, we're probably young, probably without realizing it, you picked up a rule. The rule went like this. Feeling bad is wrong. Fix it immediately. Sadness? Fix it. Boredom? Fix it. Anxiety? Here's Netflix, here's food, here's infinite social media scroll, here's the ability to buy anything in 2 clicks at 2 a.m. What this accidentally taught your brain. Discomfort is an emergency. And once discomfort becomes an emergency, happiness becomes survival. You're not chasing happiness because you're greedy. You're chasing it because your nervous system decided that not having it is a threat, which means every time you feel okay, not great, just okay, there's a part of your brain sitting there going, this is suspicious. We should probably be trying to feel better. So you scroll. You plan the next trip. You buy the thing. You make the playlist. You create a whole elaborate vision board that you photograph once and never look at again. The prediction you walked in with was, more effort toward happiness equals more happiness. The actual data says, more effort toward happiness equals more awareness of how unhappy you currently are, which creates more effort, which creates more awareness. It's the snake eating its own tail, but the snake is you and the tail is your free time. So what happens when someone, by accident or exhaustion or complete breakdown, just stops? Part 3. The moment it breaks, and what comes after. When you quit the job you didn't know you had. Picture someone who has been so aggressively chasing happiness that they basically give up. not in a sad, giving up on life way. More like, they're just done performing. Done pretending the next thing will fix it. Done waking up and immediately strategizing their emotional state like it's a startup that needs to pivot. They stop. They just exist for a minute. Here's what actually happens. And this is the part that nobody sees coming. The discomfort doesn't go away. It gets louder. Of course it does, you're thinking. Obviously stopping feels bad. No. Stay with this. Because that discomfort getting louder, that's not proof stopping is wrong. That's your brain doing its job for the first time in years. All the feelings you've been running from, the boring ones, the uncomfortable ones, the ones that make you sit with yourself for 5 minutes without doing anything, they're still there. They were always there. The chasing just made enough noise to drown them out. Think about that friend who's always busy, always has a plan, always got something going on. And then they have one free Saturday with nothing scheduled, and they text you in a panic at 11 a.m., going, "What are we doing?" That's not a social person. That's a person who's terrified of themselves. And the trap, the one nobody warns you about, is that staying busy and chasing happiness are basically the same activity with different branding. One more thing before part 4, and this one's going to be uncomfortable. The people who stop chasing happiness don't all become monks. Some of them just become kind of fine, in a way that's quietly better than anything they tried before. But why? And is fine actually the goal? Part 4, the plot. Twist your therapist definitely mentioned once. Happiness was never the point. It was the packaging. Okay, here's the biggest contradiction in the whole thing. The people who report the highest levels of satisfaction in life, actual research on this, are not the people who made happiness their goal. They're the people who got so absorbed in something else that they forgot to check whether they were happy. The scientist who loses track of time in the lab. The person building something with their hands. The athlete who's not thinking about happiness mid-competition because they're too busy competing. The parent who's completely exhausted and covered in something unidentifiable but completely present. Psychologists call this flow. That state where you're so engaged you forget to evaluate your emotional state. Which is ironic, because evaluating your emotional state is basically what chasing happiness is. Chasing happiness requires you to constantly step outside your life and ask, "Am I happy yet? What about now?" And the act of asking that question, the constant monitoring, is exactly what prevents the answer from ever being yes. It's like trying to fall asleep by checking every 3 minutes if you're asleep yet. Am I asleep? No. Now? No. What about? You are the reason you're not sleeping. The checking is the problem. And the brutally funny, self-sabotaging, classically human thing is that we keep checking harder, as if eventually we'll check enough times and it'll finally work. The people who accidentally found happiness, they stopped checking. Not because they gave up, because they found something that made them forget to. And here's where this whole thing turns into something you didn't expect when you clicked play. Part 5. What's actually on the other side? You were never chasing happiness. You were chasing proof you deserved it. Sit with that for a second. Happiness wasn't the real target. Happiness was the metric you chose to measure whether your life was going well, whether you were going well, whether you were enough, whether this whole experiment of being you was working out. That's not a happiness problem. That's a self-worth problem wearing a happiness costume. And no amount of achieving, acquiring, optimizing, or upgrading was ever going to fix it because you can't buy your way out of a belief. You remember back in the hook? The scratch tickets, the phone checking, the 0.3% chance? That wasn't about happiness. That was about reassurance. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me something good happened. Tell me I matter. And when you stop chasing, really stop, you're forced to face that question without distractions. Am I okay without proof? Which is terrifying, and also the only way through, because the people who stopped chasing and found something better didn't find happiness exactly. They found something quieter, something that doesn't need constant tending, something that doesn't panic every time life gets boring. They found that fine isn't the absence of happiness. It's the presence of something that doesn't need to be anything else. And then, occasionally, almost accidentally, happiness shows up. Not because they chased it, but because they stopped blocking it with all the chasing. The funny part? The embarrassing, I can't believe this is how it works part. The thing you spent your whole life running toward was behind you the whole time. Not in a cheesy way. In a, your brain literally works like this way. You were generating the gap. The gap wasn't real. You were the treadmill. So, you've spent 20-something minutes watching a video about stopping. And you're probably still going to check your phone the second this ends. And that's fine. That's human. That's the donkey and the stick thing again, and we're all in it together. But if something in here hit weird, comment what it was. Not for me. Because you clearly have thoughts and you're sitting there with nowhere to put them, and the comment section is right there just saying. Also, if you think I'm wrong, especially if you think I'm wrong, say that too. Best comments are always from people who disagree, get into it, and then kind of change their mind halfway through typing. And if you somehow enjoyed this enough to want more of it, I mean, the subscribe button exists. It's just sitting there, quietly, not chasing you. One of us has learned something today.